Meet Steve. Steve is a pirate. Steve is also dying of thirst, and Steve is currently surrounded by more water than any human being has ever seen in one place. And that right there is the entire problem of being a sailor for 400 years of human history. You are floating on top of a beverage that will kill you. Quick biology detour, I promise it's funny. Your kidneys can only flush out salt using water. Seawater is so salty that your body needs more fresh water to process it than the seawater actually gives you, so every gulp puts you further into debt. So, step one of pirate life. The thing you're floating on is off the menu, which is a problem because a single galleon could carry over 100 sailors, and every one of those guys needed roughly a gallon of liquid a day just to function. For a voyage that could last months, that's not a snack run. That's a logistics nightmare wearing a tricorn hat. So obviously, smart pirates just loaded up the ship with fresh water before leaving port, right? Sure, big oak barrels packed below deck. Problem is, wood is not exactly Tupperware. Ships stored their water in large wooden casks stacked in the hold, and after a few weeks in a warm, damp wooden box, that pristine drinking water starts throwing its own science fair. Algae, slime, a texture, a smell. Sailors didn't call it water anymore at that point, they just called it the green stuff and tried not to look directly at it while drinking. So if plain water turns into a swamp in a barrel, what were they actually drinking every day? Great question. Let's talk about the actual MVP of the ship, alcohol. Here's the twist nobody tells you. Pirates weren't drinking rum all day because they were partying. They were drinking it because it was safer than water. Low alcohol beer was the standard daily ration on a lot of ships. The fermentation process and alcohol content made it a lot harder for nasty bacteria to throw a rager in your cup. Sailors also added a bit of alcohol, like brandy or rum, directly into the water barrels, which helped kill bacteria and made the water last longer. Basically, hundreds of years before anyone knew what a bacterium even was, sailors accidentally figured out add disinfectant to the swamp water as a survival strategy, and it worked well enough that alcohol wasn't a luxury item on these ships. It was infrastructure. But even beer went sour on a long enough trip, so the Navy and the pirates, who were often ex-Navy or straight-up copying Navy tricks, leaned hard into something stronger. In 1740, a British admiral named Edward Vernon got sick of watching his crew get absolutely wrecked on straight rum and fall out of the rigging, so he ordered the daily rum ration to be mixed with water, splitting it into two smaller servings across the day. His nickname, thanks to the scratchy waterproof coat he always wore, Old Grog. So the sailors, who apparently had jokes even in 1740, named the diluted rum after him, Grog, and it caught on everywhere because it solved two problems at once. It stretched limited rum supplies further, and it masked the taste of water that was already going bad. And here's the bonus round. Sailors were given lime juice and sugar to sweeten their grog, which accidentally helped fight off scurvy too. Which is a whole separate horrifying video, don't worry, we'll get there. This is also, fun fact, where British sailors picked up the nickname limeys, so pirates weren't drinking rum to be piratey, they were drinking it because it was, medically speaking, their best available option. The rum wasn't the reward, the rum was the water treatment plant. Storms at sea are usually bad news, unless you're a sailor who's almost out of water, in which case a storm is basically a delivery truck. Sailors could funnel rainwater directly from the sails into their storage casks, catching a free top-up straight from the sky. There was one trick to it, though. You had to let the first splash of rain wash the salty sea spray off the sail before you started collecting, or you'd just be funneling salt water into your fresh water. Get that part wrong, and congratulations, you just contaminated your entire emergency supply because you got too excited. The single most important thing in a captain's logbook wasn't where the gold was, it was where the fresh water was. Rivers, springs, watering holes on islands. These locations were carefully recorded in navigational journals and passed between Allied sailors because knowing where to refill could be the difference between finishing the voyage or not finishing it at all. And weirdly, even pirates would sometimes trade water with each other when one crew was running low. Apparently, there's a line even pirates won't cross, and that line is letting a fellow sailor actually die of thirst, steal his gold. Sure. Let him dehydrate? Not cool, apparently. Now, when the barrels ran dry and no rain or island showed up in time, sailors got creative in ways that are deeply concerning. Some ships kept live sea turtles on deck they could survive for weeks without food or water themselves, which made them a walking emergency ration when things got desperate. Others tried to catch dew off the rigging at dawn, or licked moisture straight off the sails. It wasn't glamorous, and it didn't always work. For all these tricks, beer, rum, rain-catching, water diplomacy, emergency turtles, thirst was still one of the most feared killers at sea, right up there with storms and shipwreck. The system wasn't perfect. It was just the best 400 years of trial, error, and mild alcoholism could come up with. So next time someone says pirates were drunk 24/7 just for the vibes, no. They were running a floating chemistry experiment to avoid dying of thirst, and rum just happened to be the safest chemical on board. Honestly, kind of impressive for a bunch of guys with no idea what bacteria were. If you learned something and enjoyed watching Steve throw up over the side of a boat, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and let me know down in the comments, what should Steve almost die of next?